The Old School is brought to you by Ahart Solutions, which provides school surveys and applied research. More information at ahartsolutions.com.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Old School podcast about the American education system and a lot of points outside of that. But today, maybe, depending on whether my jocular friend has any staying power on the topic, we will stay with education this time around. And with me, the aforementioned jocular, giggling, nerdly-like character on the other side of the screen, my good friend, Dr. Stephen Bourgeois. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Miller, that was the strangest of all introductions, and
Don't you remember Snurdly?
I'm not in any way snurdly.
Do you remember Snurdly?
It sounds like a cartoon to me.
Well, it was a cartoon.
Oh no, we're dating.
Snurdly was like he was like a sidekick to Dick Dastardly or something like that.
So I don't remember either of those.
Or was it
We're like really old here, and I still don't remember that.
Snurdly or Muttley?
This is really a bad introduction to the podcast. As far as they go, you don't even know what you're talking about, and you accuse me of being snurdly.
Okay, I'll accuse you of being Muttley then. Does that make things better? Are you going to be okay?
Comfortable with nerdy if that was one of the things you referenced.
We all embrace the adjective of nerdy, I think.
Good.
I accept it.
No one's ever called you that.
I don't know if anyone's called me nerdy before.
They don't call you much of anything but sir.
Man. Anyway, I will say that I have been called cantankerous, grumpy on occasion. You know what gets me grumpy lately?
You're grumpy lately?
Well, I'll tell you.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a big fan of T-shirts. I like T-shirts. I like wearing T-shirts. It's comfortable. It's casual.
Yeah.
It says approachable and relaxed, I think.
Okay.
That's what a T-shirt will do for you.
That's what it says on the front of it?
No, it's just the vibe that it gives off.
No, I thought that was what it said on it.
It could say that.
That would be a little reaching on your part.
Well, yeah. You need to be a little bit more nuanced about stuff,
Okay.
So
okay.
The problem is that for some time now, and listen, I'm not telling you anything that people don't already know, but for some time now, companies have started to sell T-shirts out of a material called Tri-Blend.
Tri-Blend? Are those like sweating T-shirts with that allow you to sweat without sweating?
So it's not that advanced.
Okay.
Matter of fact, if Tri-Blend could be explained as anything, at least in my mind, the word cheap comes to mind. It looks cheap, it feels cheap, and yet strangely, T-shirts have gotten more expensive. Now, I like a heavyweight cotton T-shirt. I like to feel like I'm wearing a T-shirt. This stuff that they're selling nowadays, I mean, it's damn near translucent. You could put your hand inside the shirt and you can almost see your hand. That's how crappy the material is that they're making T-shirts out of these days. And listen, it would be fair for a listener to say, these are the musings, these are the rantings of a guy who doesn't have anything else more important to bitch about.
Yeah.
I'll take that. But it's still something that's out of order, especially when you consider how much money they're charging for these piece of crap thin T-shirts, And all you want is a good old-fashioned 100% cotton T-shirt, and you can't find it. You have to go on Amazon and hope that the search bar will recognize 100% heavy-duty T-shirts.
It's a strange thing, because I've been searching.
I agree.
But I've been searching for these T-shirts, not the ones but just anything that is a solid color, as I've discovered as an adult of a certain age. Solid color is the way to go. I'm
Yeah, you don't need to be wearing your Van Halen t-shirt.
No, or even your university, unless there's an event, and then it's a more of a show of force or something. So I'm just going to get. I started purchasing dark colors, mainly black. And so people see me
Why is that?
because I'm changing my name to Black Bart. That's why. Um, no, it's no. I don't want to be like
You
one
said
of
that
those.
just as I took a sip of coffee.
Good. I don't want to be one of those tech guys who wears $1,000 t-shirts and they're always black and they walk around and they do those TED talks with the microphone walking around. That's how I'm talking about, but I'm doing it uh, just because I don't want to make any decisions in the morning and it's dark, which looks decent on a Zoom screen and it looks relatively formal as opposed to white t-shirt or undershirt basically, which wouldn't work on a business call.
Here's the thing, and this is the risk that you run. Given your age, and you're getting up there,
Well, Ross,
given your age, wearing nothing but black, I can only imagine you're a couple steps away from wearing a tracksuit.
there's
And
nothing
it's
wrong with
it's just
wearing
like
black. I don't hold to that. And then I do wear a tracksuit. No, I don't, but I wear shorts all day. The same shorts I wore during COVID. And
I can imagine you in a tracksuit and people will be sarcastic and say, "Are you going to work out?" And you'll do like one of those faux pantomime running gestures. And you're like, "Yep, I'm on my way," and then they're like, "Oh, there goes old man bourgeois," pretending like he's working out. So
it's a big jump from the t-shirt to the tracksuit. And I don't know
I'm
what the hell
like,
are you doing bringing this topic up on an educational podcast? Where is this leading?
it's leading to ruin is what it's leading to is
Yeah.
because if you start basically doing your own little impression of the man in black, I'm just saying it's not a huge leap
I'm
to
not
go
doing
from that.
anything of the sort. Um, well, let's see a transition out of this one.
Well, the transition is that that's the intro
Oh,
full
wait.
full of that's the intro full of yucks and commiserations, and now we segue into the topic. And I'm thinking about the fact that one of the things that we've never done, unlike you with your solid black t-shirts, one of the things we've never done is really kind of peel the curtain behind, the education world, what's happening when, the vast majority of people who may be involved in education, the teachers or, but the people outside the building, they have maybe little understanding of or little knowledge of.
And so we're gonna remove the curtain, the veil, and see what really happens before everybody's sitting at the counter as they go into the school, smiling. Welcome to our school.
Well, that would suggest there is some sort of ramp up that has to happen.
Um,
Do you trust people who walk into school at 6 in the morning smiling?
I've never been there that early. Yeah, the people who are there early, anyone there earlier than myself, I don't trust them, and I think anyone comes later is a slacker. So,
It's just one of those things where, like, it's like this ever increasing, but very slowly increasing kind of din that starts to happen. So, like, I used to get to school, between 5:30 and 6 because I like the
yeah,
quiet.
yeah.
AM, yeah, I like the quiet. It gave me a good opportunity to get work done because you didn't have people coming in. But then slowly but surely, I think the first people you hear is the cleaning crew. I mean, usually the main person whose job it is to kind of unlock all the doors. That's the first. It's like the first sign of life, I think, within a school building. is that you hear the jangling of keys.
Yeah.
And then you hear the unlocking, where they push the bar in and they unlock it, and that allows the people to use the door, for the rest of the day. The head custodian would usually stop by my room because I was the only person that was there. They'd say hi. I'd say hi. How's it going? But typically that's your first sign of life. And then you have the people who are there early for one of two reasons.
Oh no. Now you're
What?
going to be cynical on
No,
one of
no,
the
no.
reasons. Yes, you are. I can feel the cynicism coming.
Okay, you tell me then,
Yeah.
Mr. Optimism, Mr. Rose-colored glasses. I want you to tell me the kind of people that come in early.
Well, like the two of us, there's some who believe you should be there 90 minutes before there's a student in your room out of respect for the students. And but 90 minutes is about right because you want to feel not like you're just kind of dragging in and then start teaching, but also you have preparation to do. So there are some people who are um, there because that's their routine and they want to have some time to get ready and some time to themselves. I mean, they value the time before the bar hits and the people start flowing in. But the other side, who knows what you're going to say on that?
No, I'm now curious about what you're gonna say because you made an assumption that I was gonna be cynical and
Yeah,
and
I did.
snarky.
You've been cynical since we got here.
That there's those people who show up early
Yeah.
infrequently, and those are the people that they forgot to make copies the day
Oh,
before,
infrequently.
yeah, and so they run in to kinda do it, and they have to get here early and
You may
y
go home after that.
yeah. But you can tell the people who are not typically there early, but are there early, they'll stop by your room because mine's the only light still, on at that moment. It's, "Oh, I didn't know you got here this early." It's, "Oh, yes."
Yeah.
So the people who are just kinda, like, amazed that the building is open, those are the people who infrequently show up early. I think there's those that think that there is something to be gained from the appearance of being there early, but they may not necessarily do anything.
Nobody will see them that early. They miss that you wanna be seen by your supervisor. That's the whole
Yeah.
point if that's your game.
But that's why they'll never be there as early as like I was, but they'll be there early, say, like, by 7.
It's a statement.
It's a statement. There's a statement that says, "Hey, I'm here," because usually the principals are there by now. Certainly the head principal's there. I don't know about the vice principals. Those jokers.
No, no, they get there usually before the main principal. It depends. We've seen it all.
Yeah,
So
we have seen it all.
so,
Yeah. And so you get to slow it down, and then, I think the first annoyance of the day that is the kid that comes in early
oh,
and walks into your room and does not greet you, but starts the conversation with, "Mr. Miller, I needed to make up and then you have to correct them. You'll say, "Good morning," and then they'll look confused.
and then you tell them, "Come back at 7."
No, I no, I will say that I had a bit of nervousness when kids were there too early, and it wasn't because of any kind of uncertainty on my part. I'm a very confident individual. I don't care who's in my presence on any given moment. But at the same time, you just want, unfortunately, this is the world we live in, but I mean, you just want other people around when students start coming into your room. But my big thing was just the idea that, kids coming in and not saying, "Good morning, how are you?" "How was your day yesterday?" Did you have a good evening?" That sort of thing. That's appropriate. And so I would stop it.
You were wanting some kid to come in your room and say, "Good morning, Mr. Miller. How was your evening last night?"
Or there's something. Or just you could have stopped at, "Good morning, Mr. Miller."
That conversation has never happened, and,
I made it happen because I would say, "Good morning." And then usually if there were any kind of self-possessed kid,
yeah.
they would typically kinda catch themselves, look a little embarrassed, and then said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you?" I said, "I'm fine. Thank you for asking," so I just wanted to be asked.
So,
But
going way back to the morning thing of our topic,
hmm,
what? So that's another one is kids who sneak through security who are actually there.
it is weird that because I think some schools have a little bit of a harder line than other schools with the idea of how early kids are allowed to come into the building proper.
Yes,
Maybe they're allowed to, mingle in the common areas like in the cafeteria or some place like that.
but they can't be
But
there
the
that early. I mean, you're supposed to have a single point of entry. Schools have ramped up since I was teaching dramatically, but isn't that kind of the rule? So they actually open it and let people in at this point in time.
Yes, however, there are a couple of points where kids could typically get into the building before they were officially allowed to, especially the band kids. They always seem to have access to the band room. And
Because
then from the
it's
band room, you can get into the building proper.
it's open. Yeah, because they work early, but yeah, it's an entry point.
And the same thing with athletes. Athletes the same way. They'd come into the building through the locker room. And then, so
So you're
there's a
just
handful of kids.
so there is no security technically as far as early morning. You can get
Well,
in if you want to.
as far as my school goes, there was not.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there was security, but it wasn't like lockdown prison like security. I mean, you could get in.
When did those folks get there? Because you had some security guards occasionally, right?
Security guards didn't get there until later. I mean, I think the security guards are doing basically 9 to 5 kind of stuff. And so I never saw a security guard in the building prior to the first period. If they were there, I didn't see them.
Okay.
And so what
Maybe
you
that's
basically have is you have teachers,
yeah, yeah.
um, certain teachers. Then you have the first janitors, but the janitors don't do any cleaning until about 2 in the afternoons when they start cleaning. So usually you just have like the head janitor there, and then they're basically there in case all hell breaks loose sometime between when kids arrive and 2 o'clock when uh, their staff show up.
Well, they're doing lunchroom and they have stuff to do.
There's stuff to do, but I mean, it's like as far as like as far as like cleaning or maintenance or what have you, that's mainly the head janitor's job, the head custodial's job. Uh, yeah, you get the lunch crowd, you got the lunch ladies come in.
That's
They're
a
usually there pretty early,
they should be men, Ross.
or men. Yeah,
Well,
my experience, it's only been ladies, but yeah, I guess they could be men. So listen, I'm not trying to cause any gender controversy here. I'm just letting you know.
you don't cause any controversy of any kind. So you're saying people are kind of the regular crowd shuffles in as the image you're
Yeah,
building up to. Um,
and it's not like I've never seen anyone walk, not necessarily not with purpose, but I've never seen anyone walk with what's the word I'm trying to think of? I was gonna say joy, but it's not that people don't enjoy their work. It's just that I don't think I don't think teachers are a class of workers that like skip to their job. I think they have to kind of warm up to it. And I think that may be why some teachers get there early and why some teachers don't feel the need to.
they're trying to prepare for what's about to be in front of them.
It's a mental exercise
Uh, and
because
someone,
I told you that I'm one of those people who gets his energy from being by myself.
yeah,
It it took a lot to be in front of kids all day long and to be interacting with adults all day long. It took a lot out of me. And so that's why I got there very early so that I could leave when it was time to go because I needed to be able to kind of decompress, what have you. But I mean, but it's just interesting all the characters that you see behind the scenes, you know?
but it does start to fill up. Um, but it is surprising the difference from teacher to teacher. Say you have 50, 60, 70 teachers and you look at when they arrive. And in often they're carrying things. Sometimes it looks like they're going through an airport with luggage. What, getting ready to meet a flight, and they tend to walk with purpose because they're dragging something, I guess. And but often they're going directly to that classroom, and they give off the vibe that nothing's going to stop them. It's not like they're going to stop and have a conversation, a cup of coffee. They're moving with purpose because they're dragging.
They don't want to be stopped.
Right.
They don't want extemporaneous conversations.
Right. And then there are those, often coaches who are just having a conversation all day from the time they walk in. They're talking to people. And that's what they do.
So I used to have a colleague who was a Southern gentleman. He is a Southern gentleman. And there is something about that ilk that lends itself to a much more casual approach to how they start the day and a much more casual approach to how they do conversations. Because I find that Southern gentlemen, and I don't know if this is the same with Southern ladies. It's not been my experience, but who knows? I don't know. But it's just the idea of that kind of, you know, the conversation at before school that does not have any pre-thought out ending to it. And so there's usually like these Mandarin conversations mixed in with some history. And it is the lifeblood of Southern society are these guys that just know how to talk and know how to tell stories, you know? And it's one of those things, where you're just like, yeah, man, could you believe yesterday? And he'll go, yes, I can. I can totally believe yesterday. Let me tell you what happened back in 1975. 1975, I was in a school, just and off, you're off to the races,
And then you're stuck listening, though, too.
You're stuck, but sometimes it's okay because it's
Yeah.
a good story usually,
Yeah.
So it depends on how busy you are. I mean, but, I try to kind of keep in mind that I probably am never as busy as I think I am. Maybe I just want to escape. Then you can always find a reason to disengage. But I mean, um,
Um, but there are rules in a school that kind of are behind a lot of these interactions, and one of them that's broken all the time is that you shouldn't have a classroom of students without a teacher in it, and that means any time of day, before school, during school, of course, after school, and so that kind of guides what's happening like before school in your room. And often, I mean, you have a lock on your door, you'll lock the door. And if you
yeah.
need to wander around and get some copies or go to the office or something, so just so people know, you really shouldn't, and most teachers don't just leave their students in the room. It's your unless you're in there, um, then it's okay.
Or if you're just right outside the door or someplace, something like
You're
that.
stretching the rule already here, Miller. We just outside the door, and then it's
So
a
I
strange.
would teach primarily juniors.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that I would give them the keys to the kingdom, but at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily flip out if a kid was in the classroom before, if like I stepped out to go do something before class. And in the interim, a single student got there first of all of their kiddos during first period, you know, because, I think if you keep the door closed too often, it creates an environment that's suitable to that image.
Yeah.
And I think the more your door is open, the more it lends itself to that philosophy. And so anytime I was in my room, the door was open. I was hardly ever in my room, whether I was teaching or whether I was planning when the door was not open. I mean, it would have to be, a din of noise outside during like a testing time that I would close the door. Otherwise, I like having the door open. It comes with its own problems, but so does the door closed. And so, unless there was something, I don't know, something strange or what have you, if I wasn't in the room, I usually kept the door open. It's kind of like a subtle sign. Hey, you're home, you know?
Okay, Herr Miller, you're also showing the public all these breaches in security and protocol, one after the other. Yeah,
Let
and
me tell you
teachers coming
if you're
in
talking
late.
about a kid in my classroom, I would suggest to you that the breach has already happened. It didn't happen by the kid going into my classroom.
Well, it could be anybody in there, but think about the teachers. You know, because it is a public display. You know, when you arrive, everybody knows it, everybody feels it.
Mhm.
This person comes in early. Okay, they're always there. They have their routine. Some don't, and some come remarkably close to when the students are there. Um,
I don't understand that, but
but I mean, we're talking about, I'd say 30% of the faculty tends to be on they're not late usually, uh, but they're there's not much transition time, and they could be incredibly gifted teachers, and they're really prepared in those little suitcases,
right.
ready to hit the ground. But it happens. So just to let people know, there's a huge difference in everything in between. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
I will usually give someone leeway if they show up, say, 20 minutes before first period.
before
If
yeah,
Yeah, before the students get here. If they're staying late after school.
and that we don't know either. That's a whole different story,
Right.
because we've talked about teachers who back their trucks into the parking lot, their campers or whatever they're driving, so they basically,
Make a clean getaway.
yeah, kinda like Mark Harmon at the summer school watching the clock in the gym, wearing his Hawaiian shirt, because, unfortunately, some of those teachers who are there very late are also the ones backed in, uh, to their parking, and so that's a way for principals out there, and they all do it, they note those times,
Yeah.
but they say, "Oh, yeah, come in, do your work, it's fine, you just get your job done," but they know who's backing in and who's there for real. But it's a generational difference. You and I and our generation wants to be there before our supervisor, and we want to leave after them. And I took that way more seriously than you did. I mean, you would leave.
Especially the after.
Yeah,
Especially the
yeah. I would always. It was always this tension. I wanted to make sure to make some display I'm dedicated beyond. But I always felt awkward in any job leaving before my supervisor.
Hmm. I like being there early, and I remember one of the biggest joys I got was a kid that said, "You just always seem to be here." And I liked the I don't know if he meant it as a compliment or if he was just making an observation,
Yeah.
but I like the fact that I was never absent and I was never not there when I was there. I mean, because I was there before the kiddos were. So that was always kind of one thing about kind of the behind the scenes, at the beginning of the school day. Which group of people in a school that were not directly related to your job do you think you connected with the most, and why?
Oh, that's easy. I think there's an affinity between people who are coaches and custodians, and you've spoken to a lot of custodians
Yeah.
over your years. I always did, and because I knew the night crew. As a coach, you're there late quite often, and
Mhm.
um, and so you get to know them by name, and I mean, I used to hang out with them when I was single with the
Right.
custodial crew. They would come over to the house. We'd watch pay-per-view boxing and eat pizza. I won't tell the whole story of that, but it happened a lot. So they were friends, and so I think the custodial crew was, the front office as a male teacher. I mean, again, we're getting into gender, but often they were females, and they um, as a younger male teacher, they wanted to help, and so you give the perception that you're a little bit clumsy and incompetent and have a lot of questions, and they'll jump in and help. You know, so, oh, and you kind of take on that role a little bit, and so that was kind of the tone of the front office. Oh, here comes Steve. Let's help him. He does, uh,
Poor guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and
Yeah, but that was another group that you see all the time, so you're friends with them, and probably more than the other teachers because we're all in our little place,
right.
doing what we do. I mean, I never hung out a lot with the other coaches because I was a tennis coach, but I did know the custodians, the front office staff, um, and yeah, that's about it. How about you?
Well, I knew the custodians because I was there early, so just the opposite for you, so I certainly knew the head custodian a lot because they were there usually about the same time I was, or whoever their second was, because sometimes the head custodian didn't wanna get there too early, so they would have their second come in to unlock the building and what have you. So, there was that relationship there. I spoke a little Spanish, and the head custodian spoke Spanish, and so that became kinda like a source of communication between us. And then the secretaries, as you said, not to stereotype here, but all the secretaries I knew in my experience were women. And so I would always say hello to them. And I would always ask them how they were doing or something like that, ask if they're having a good day. And then, say the same on my way out. Say, hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great weekend. And it was never kind of a question of chatting them up or anything.
No, no.
Because I think one of the things to keep in mind, at least from my point of view, and if I can hazard to speak on behalf of you, there was never any ulterior motive to doing it. To me, it's just being polite. But I think because I was willing to be polite with the secretaries, I was doing about two things more than the average person would.
Oh, for
In
sure.
some cases, the average person wouldn't even maybe just wave a hand or what have you, but they wouldn't exactly address the secretaries
Yeah,
unless they had to for some reason.
yeah,
And I would address people, you know, no matter where they fit in that tier of secretaries, whether they were the principal secretary, which you kind of have to deal with more than the others, or whether it was the secretary that worked for the security guys or, whatever the case may be. To me, it was just a question of just being nice, being gentlemanly, being polite to a fellow human being, that sort of thing. But it did have, and I realized this fairly quickly, it did have the consequence of, I could ask people for stuff more.
right.
If you have a relationship with them, you're likely going to get more of a positive response than if you don't have a relationship with them.
That's right. So if you forget to submit your expense report for a trip to Abilene, Texas with your tennis team, and you should have done that before as a purchase order, and they'll help you out.
That sounds like a very specific example.
Hold on. But yeah, that's right. But we're also men of the people, you and I. We're not schmoozing with the principal or the vice principals, or we're and of course there are the other teachers. We haven't talked much about them, and but I
Well, I think
mean,
that, so the problem in my school was, and I don't know if it's a problem or not, but the teachers were organized, their rooms were organized based upon the department in which they
right?
they worked within. And so the people that you're most likely to see are the other people within your department. I can't tell you how many times I would say, "Do you know so and so? They're a teacher at Keller," and there's a chance I might know 'em just because I was a department chair. But there was also a fairly good chance that they weren't in my department. I didn't know them. Just because if I'm never in that part of the building, or if I never come across them during training at the beginning of the school year, or if they're otherwise not remarkable that you would remember them, then I would have no reason to know them. And so, some at some points, the teachers are a different kind of a crowd. And I must tell you, I didn't always like teachers.
You didn't.
And
What a shock!
well, no, I found, and again, I'm just speaking from my experience. I can't speak about all teachers, but it was my experience that teachers were a rather kvetching lot. And I just I didn't like, it's gonna sound weird because it seems like all we do on this podcast is complain about one thing or another, but I don't like complaining, and I didn't like complaining, certainly not in a work atmosphere. And so I wouldn't, but it also then pushed me away from some people who did it a lot, or the gossipers. and that's male or female. But you'd always have the gossipers, and of course, the only thing that the gossipers are doing, and they're doing it on purpose, is trying to foment a little bit of tension, a little bit of drama. And as a rule, I tended to stay away from those folks. And why I think I like one of the reasons why I liked talking to the custodial staff, and one reason why I like talking to the secretaries, is that they didn't really have a buy-in to all the drama going on around them. You know, they're doing their own thing. The custodial staff are doing their own thing. Security guys are doing their own thing, you know. And so it was easier talking with them than it was talking with other teachers.
Yeah, you wanna keep away from them. The cliche is if you're a young teacher, you don't step foot in the faculty room. Um,
Not if you can help it.
um, I'm not even sure what a faculty room is. Some places don't even have them. You know
Really?
well, yeah, I've been at places where they I don't recall a faculty room per se. There's a place where you have your boxes to get your mail.
And the copiers.
Yeah, some do, and then, I mean, sometimes, yeah, there are people who are regularly sitting and working in a faculty room, which I could never understand, but there are also itinerant teachers, um,
Yes.
and a lot of people who teach electives, may not be lucky enough to have a classroom,
Mhm.
and so the faculty room does become that. So I've seen, faculty rooms that have people in there, but it's not a great place to work because people are talking in there usually.
Mhm.
Um, I've been in a lot of schools because I've done substitute teaching, and well, that's a place that can be really really quiet during class when class is going on. There's nothing in there but a couple of substitutes,
Right.
and then it fills up. So I'm kind of making this amalgam. It's an amalgamation of faculty rooms throughout my career. Um, but I don't recall spending a lot of quality time in faculty rooms.
No, it becomes like the stereotypical water cooler of your typical business. It becomes the place where people start talking, and usually it's not professional, because if it was professional, you'd be in someone's office or at someone's desk or in someone's classroom, or, usually the spontaneous fly by night conversation at the copier is generally not deep conversation.
No, it's too loud having the copy going on. Um, but maybe a
Fine.
lot of people don't know the significance of having your own classroom, and I mean it's something that's probably an American thing. Certainly not in Germany. They move around. Um, but to have a room that you decorate is that you decide where the desks go, where your teacher desk is, where everything is, and it's your realm. That's a big deal. We're thinking in terms of high school, but any level of that classroom is their kingdom or queendom.
It becomes a safe haven to a certain degree, and the degree to which someone considers it a safe haven can also cause a problem. You and I had that one teacher that we worked with at that one school where they basically set up their desk, their personal work desk, almost like a fort that was between them and the students, or the students couldn't get too close to them.
They would have to climb over a shelf.
Or climb under the desk. But, I mean, I think I've done both. In the beginning of my career, I was floating, so I had, like, one of those little library carts, and I so much wanted one of those glaring horns to just power my way through a hallway.
That was hard.
But Huh?
That was hard going through a hallway with a cart.
It's not easy. I
Yeah,
mean, the only thing you got going for you is that your cart is typically made out of some kind of metal, and it hurts if it hits you, and
yeah.
so people will typically give you a little bit of room. They won't sit there and try to make a statement or anything. And so I think that there's advantages to being the floater, in the sense that, you don't have to worry about a room. No one ever knows where to find you. Um, you know, the floater adjacent position, that, something that's not floating but is kind of like it, is if you have one of the portables outside.
Oh, yeah, I've never had a
That
portable.
That's the sweet spot,
Really?
because sweet spot is you usually you can open windows, usually you control your own climate in the trailer, no one ever comes out there, certainly not a principal. Certainly not a vice principal
Well,
or anybody
50
like that.
years ago, I hear that there was a principal out here in this room, 1920 what?
But I mean, it's just it was the sweet spot because when you're in the building, then you're a lot more accessible. If someone's looking for you and they say, "Oh, their classroom is out in the portables," they will change their mind as to why they want to find you,
Yeah, it's a long
and they'll just come up. They'll say, I'll just catch him next time he's in the building.
yeah.
There's the key. You don't go in the building.
Yeah. So you can just live outside basically, and, I mean, you'll go through but you don't have a lot of reasons to parade through the hallway if you live out there, you're probably on your own a lot.
No, you come in the first thing in the morning, grab your mail, and then you go out to the portable and you stay there. So I think as far as like the situation for a teacher, the sweet spot is the portable outside.
Wow. So some complain about those because they
I
smell
have no
mold or something.
listen, I can handle mold. I'm not worried about mold.
Ross Miller, that'll be the quote for the episode.
Now, granted, I just had a large lump taking out of my throat, so maybe I should
Oh,
be a little bit more concerned with
or
the mold. But the the um the mold is an issue, yes. My only issue that I ever had in the portables were shoot, termites.
oh, great.
I remember giving a test and you always knew the termites were there because you saw the little thing of dirt like sticking out of the wall, from time to time. And if you ever knocked the
Oh,
dirt off, you'd always see like a little head pop up in the hole. Like, what happened to the dirt we just meticulously put up here. But but especially in the spring, because that's when they swarm. I had it happen during the test. Kids freaked out. And I said, "Okay, well, go outside then." So the test was totally shot, but that's really the only danger is if you
it's
have like a
it's
portable that's like 50 years old.
it's termites. So thank
So
you. Thank you for that image of the termite. It'll stay with me forever now, poking the head out there.
so usually towards about 2 or 3 o'clock, that's when the staff comes. That's when the janitor staff, custodial staff comes in, and I always tried to get to know the person that cleaned my room, mainly because I made it such a point to make sure they didn't have to clean much.
Yeah,
I was very adamant that my kiddos picked up after themselves. Made sure things were straight because I just didn't want someone having to spend an inordinate amount of time in my room having to clean. I really felt bad for those folks during COVID because they were doing crap that they probably never had to do in their entire career, and mainly just kind of doubling down on cleaning stuff.
right.
But
So
it's not something that I think a lot of people think about, is that especially during COVID, yeah, teachers had it tough, yeah, students had it tough, but man, those support folks, they probably had it rougher than any of us, simply because the amount of stuff that they had to do, it seemed like it doubled, quadrupled from what it was beforehand.
so what does happen after school? The students are sent home, but they don't all go, and it's sometimes hard to get them out of the building, for different reasons, but eventually it thins out, but there's kind of the first wave of people leaving, but then a good portion of the school population hasn't left yet.
I think in most cases, the administrators are still there for
Yeah,
various reasons, mainly because there usually has to be an administrator on duty when there are after school activities like sporting events or what have you. There has to be somebody there with a walkie talkie to look important and take care of anything if any shenanigans should materialize.
right. Can't have
And
shouldn't have
then, and then you have the cleaning crew, and this is when they do the bulk of their work. I think most of the time they're working from about 2 o'clock to about 7. Um, and then there's security usually leaves at some point. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think they're there that late, but they are there later
a little
because
bit, but there's still a lot of interaction with students. I mean, there are some teachers whose room fills up after school. They're making up tests that they fail. They're doing
And tutorials.
tutorials, and so there. I mean, there's really a good hour, and it just depends on the teacher. But some teachers are pretty packed after school, and
And there's
some
some
have never.
teachers
Yeah,
yeah, there's some teachers who also sponsor clubs,
right.
and so sometimes you'll see their activity going on after school, and so you'll go down a mainly empty hallway, and then you'll see 40 kids crammed into a classroom, and so
Yeah,
something is happening.
but there's a different pace, after school, and
It's more relaxed.
yeah, I mean, I definitely stayed a lot longer than you did typically I mean, even when we weren't working together.
Right.
But that there was something really enjoyable about the slow pace walking through the halls, and there's not many people there. You go back and do your work a little bit, walk around. That it was kind of nice. It was actually a different. There was a little bit of growing stress in the morning as it keeps building up, kind of like a baseball game or whatever, a football game particularly, or that you feel that. But the opposite after school. People are leaving a little bit, but nobody's in a hurry.
And I think part of it has to do with the fact that the people who are there after school are people who want to be there.
Exactly.
So that's either teachers, that's either students or what have you. Throughout the entire school day, you are confronted primarily with people who don't want to be there or who would
90% of them. Yeah.
yeah,
Both
or
sides.
who if given yeah, or
Yeah.
if given their druthers, they would they
Right.
would they may not have a problem with learning, but they would prefer not to do it in a school building. But then after school, I think one of the reasons why you feel that tension release and a much more enjoyable environment experience is because, for the most part, the vast, vast majority of people after school want to be there. They're if they're learning because they want to learn.
Yeah.
They're motivated by some reason or another, be it external or intrinsic or what have you, but they want to be there. Now, you still got crews that are working, and so their interests and their desire to be there may be on par with the teachers during the workday. But I mean, for the most part, it's a much more relaxed atmosphere. It's what you think of what the ancient Greek schools must have been like. Just people just kind of hanging around the steps, listening to a wise old sage.
Yeah, I was at Sage. People would gather in a circle on the steps. I can remember holding court. Um, but and then you think about how many floors there are in a school. Not levels, but actual surfaces of floor.
Yeah,
Every one of those surfaces is going to be washed that night, typically. I
not
mean,
waxed, but
well,
yeah,
but something. There's going to be some device, a broom, something.
yeah.
But that whole and then there are all the garbage cans and whatever else. But then there is waxing. It happens often. It's later if you ever happen to be there later at night. But there's a lot of that going on too behind the scenes. As the floors for a lot of good reasons are addressed.
Hmm. So you have those crew. What do you think determines how long an administrator stays?
Yeah, that
How
that
if you had to if you had because you have been in the position of an administrator on a given day, what percentage of the day is spent doing things you have to do as opposed to having to do the other mess that goes along with being an administrator?
well the after school part. I mean, there are meetings first of all. And meetings happen after school. Typically, there are some faculty meetings in the morning, but administrators have a lot of other responsibilities right after school. So that's another time where things get jumping. That's where you meet with parents who have, I guess, art meetings, special education meetings, and so they plan on a few days of those, which can go till 4 or 4:30, even pretty late. Um, and then they divide up the activities, and I've never been an assistant principal at a big school, but they're doing evening events, at the school or someplace else. So there's a lot of so their job's just getting going. They work a lot of hours in a longer school year for not that much more money, technically.
So if you're a VP, you might either have to be there at school for a football game that's going
Mhm.
to be had at that school,
Right.
or you might have to travel with the volleyball team who's going three hours down the road to play some sort of game. There has to be some sort of administrative representative at the game representing that school.
Yeah. So that work continues. The coaches are just getting started.
Hmm.
After school is their work time. And so you see coaches kind of meandering a little bit during the day. They have some courses, but their big stuff happens after school. So that's when they're in their moment of intensity, and then they have travel, they have games. So the school is actually functioning, and quite late every day, and on weekends. It really doesn't stop much.
It's almost the city that never sleeps, almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot going on there, and there's a great film about Berlin. And I think it was probably in the 1930s. You've probably seen it. I can't remember the name of it now, but the city basically wakes up and it takes you through a full day in Berlin, starting with the street sweepers and then the machines and everything that gets going. A school is very similar to that because it does. I mean, you described it very well as far as the beginning. We wake up and a few people, Ross Miller, walks in, waves at the custodian. They speak a little Spanish, have a cup of coffee, and then it continues, but it doesn't stop. And there are events happening maybe till 10 or 10:30 at night, and then it winds up again. And so yeah, there's a lot that's going on, and we call it behind the scenes, but some of that is public, but a lot of it people don't know. That this is all happening so that we can provide this education to your kids in the seats.
You've talked about how, in general, the school year runs like a rhythm, that
Mhm.
there's a rhythm to the school year. There are ebbs and flows. And I think when you think about the typical school day, I think that there's also rhythms of that typical school day. If you want to microanalyze it, as far as like,
Beautiful.
the arrival of the first teachers, the custodians,
Yeah.
the usually the last people to leave, or vice principals or custodians or security. And so there's this kind of this symphony that's being played every single day that that goes by its own notes, and sometimes it can be predictable, sometimes it can be surprising, but
Well,
it's interesting nevertheless.
yeah, it builds up, and then we mentioned a minute ago the principal, vice principal. Y We need to remember that they deal with 1 to 2 crises every day, something new, unexpected. It could be a pissed off parent, it could be, kids have fighting, it could be all kinds of things, but it's always unexpected, and it's always twice every day for each of them. So they don't have the regular type of. I mean, it's much more explosive, less predictable in some of those roles. The teachers like predictability, and I think they all strive, as you and I did, to keep this rhythm of the day. But there are other people who the nature of the job is to deal with things so that we can keep that going.
One of the things I think that both of us would like to make sure that people walk away from this episode knowing is that how many people are there to try to make the day run as smoothly as possible that may not ordinarily get the attention.
Right.
You know, during COVID, there was a lot of talk about the teachers, and there was a lot of talk about the coaches and administrators or what have you, but very seldom did people talk about the custodial staff, the cafeteria staff, the secretaries, these people that are in some ways, perhaps many ways, the engine of the school day. And
It could
and
be like 40% of the adults in the room. I mean, you have teacher aides, you have special education staff. Um, yeah, yeah. We say teachers, and I've started calling people staff
mm,
in my survey because I give a survey to every adult in the building.
right.
And yeah, and the teachers are 60-70% of those adults, but yeah, there's a lot of people there having their own rhythm of their day.
Mhm.
Very, very similar, and some of them may find teachers really annoying because they're just trying to, scrub the floor, move their desks, get out of here. And Miss Miller, why are you getting here so damn early? Trying to
I guess in the same way that sometimes students can feel like they're getting in the way of the teachers, I think
well,
teachers definitely get in the way of other folks.
well, I've heard say that school is a great place for young people to watch adults work.
Yeah. Mm.
Sorry.
But hopefully people have now a better sense of all the adults that are working inside of a school. But anyway, did you have a good fourth?
A good fourth. It was great. It was actually a great fourth. I watched the great Joey Chestnut return to greatness. 70 and one half hot dogs in 10 minutes. You do the math. That means hot dog and bun. Um, he won handily, as usual, and all was right with the world.
Well, if you say so, I'll have to take your word for it
No,
because
it was a magical event, and then the party continued at the bourgeois home until very late, and there were fireworks, and there was celebration, and grilling happened. All the things that you want on the 4th.
well, your bacchanalian experiences at the bourgeois household notwithstanding, I'm glad that you indeed had a good 4th of July.
Well, and
Uh,
you here,
Joey
Miller.
Chestnut
Yeah.
certainly did not add or detract, well, probably detract philosophically from my enjoyment of the 4th, but
What did you do? Did you reread the Constitution, or what do they do at the Miller house? We're gonna have a reading of this now.
well, you said someone once said that the Constitution does not need to be rewritten; it needs to be reread. And so I I read it, and so I told my daughter I was going to make her sit there and listen to me reread the Constitution. But in the
Really?
end,
What happened?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
But you thought about
I thought it's the important thing.
it. I was really joking, and you were really serious.
Anyway, well, with that, we shall say adieu for the week. Thank y'all so much for listening. Make sure you follow the Old School Podcast on the Instagram at the Old School Podcast 2021. Leave a comment, share any of these episodes that you like, share them with your friends. It will impress them to no end. But follow us, leave a comment. We'd like to also hear from you. And so if you care to leave a comment, please do so. But nevertheless, we thank you so much for listening. And with that, we shall say adieu, Herr Dr. Bourgeois.
Auf Wiedersehen, Herr Miller.